Kailash, if you get dropped out or something, and when you rejoin, don't start recording again that time. It gives a bad impression when this noise comes recording in progress. Okay.
Sure, sir.
So start after something had changed. Okay, don't start in the middle of a speech.
Yeah, okay.
Ankita, it's 5, you can start.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I, Ankita Dev, the Sergeant at Arms for today, welcome you all to 677 chapter meet of Toastmasters Club of Pune. The mission of Toastmasters Club is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Before proceeding further, I would like to explain some basic rules of this meeting. I request everyone to put all the noise-making devices on silent mode. Please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Please use the clap emoji when the transfer is shifted or when the speaker is done speaking. I request all the role players and speakers to rename themselves as the role, underscore, and your name. For example, as an SAA, I have renamed myself as SAA underscore Ankita Dev. Guests can rename themselves as guest underscore your name. Keep your videos turned on if possible to encourage the speakers. Please follow the following protocol. Mr. President, Toastmasters of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and guests to address them. We will now have a round of guest introduction. I request each guest to tell their name, profession, and how they came to know about Toastmasters, all in 15 seconds. Are there any guests, TTM Nagappan?
Yes, we have guest. I would like to begin with the guest Piyush. I think he's with the camera. He's going to soon become a member. Please then however introduce.
Yeah. Over to you, Piyush.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Ankita. Thank you, Toastmaster Nagappan. My name is Piyush Udan. I am an IIT graduate. Currently, I work with Jaguar Land Rover in the driverless cars team. I got to know about Toastmasters from a senior in my firm. So yeah, as Toastmaster Nagappan said, looking forward to join as a Toastmaster from next meeting. Yeah.
Sanjeevani.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sanjeevani. I am civil graduate and currently I am working as senior executive in Godrej Properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Shreya, guest Shreya, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shreya and I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's from Symbiosis School of Economics, Pune. And I came to know about Toastmasters from my professor.
Thank you.
We have no more cases.
Okay. So moving ahead with the agenda, please help me welcome someone who is a game developer and a management enthusiast. He likes reading books, writing, and is also passionate about gaming, who is none other than the Toastmaster of the day, Akash Bhojraj. Over to you, TMOD.
Thank you so much, Ankita. Good evening, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. Welcome to another exciting program of extraordinary theme and speeches of the 677th chapter meeting of Toastmasters Club of Pune. I am Akash Bhojraj, your host for this evening. It's 15 degrees Celsius in Pune and people are feeling cold. It's 8 degrees Celsius in Delhi and people are feeling very cold. But it's minus 15 degrees Celsius in Siachen and the Indian Army soldier stands ever ready to defend this nation. Roads have potholes. People feel jerks and complain. But the sea is ever rough with storms and winds. And the Indian Navy conquers these seas and stands ever ready to defend this nation. Whenever there's a fog, people click selfies to show off. But when the visibility is down to zero, the Indian Air Force flies through it and stands ready to defend this nation. A salute to the armed forces for their steely resolve to protect us and protect our country. Our theme for today's meeting is armed forces. Before we start, let's hear something. So you might be wondering, what was this song? So let me tell you. Baduram Ka Badan is a regimental song of the Assam Regiment of the Indian Army. Major M.T. Proctor created this song in honor of the rifleman Baduram, a soldier of the Assam Regiment of the British Indian Army who died from a gunshot wound while fighting against the Imperial Japanese Army in World War II. After Baduram's death, the quartermaster, Kardappa Rajbhogshi, could not remove his name from the rations roster since the company's communications were cut off by the Japanese forces, and the company continued to draw rations in Baduram's name. This extra ration helped the company survive through a siege when Japanese troops surrounded them during the Battle of Kohima and supplies were cut. Accordingly, the song was composed in Baduram's honor with the lyrics, "We get rations because Baduram's body is buried beneath." The heroism of Baduram is long remembered along with this song. I start with the utmost respect to the heroism, valor, and sacrifices of the armed forces and welcome the esteemed guests to Toastmasters Club of Pune. Let me explain the program for today for the benefit of the guests. We will have two sessions. The first half will consist of two speeches. The second half will be for impromptu speaking, in which you will learn how to think fast and speak off the cuff. I will introduce our president and invite him for opening address. Our president is the founder of Toastmasters movement in Pune and Maharashtra. Professionally, he is a corporate trainer and economist. He speaks dozen languages, has traveled to 56 countries, and trained in 27 countries. He has led 5,000 plus Toastmasters across 212 clubs of District 41 as district governor for 2013 and 14. In layman's language, he was All India Head or General of Indian Toastmasters Army. He was active for 5 years in NCC, National Cadet Corps, Naval Wing and Air Force Wing across school, junior and senior college. He was also made a cadet captain. This might have led to his being particular about formal dress code and discipline in our Toastmasters meetings. He is very patriotic and has several friends in the Indian Army. His favorite Fauji song, "Kar chale hum fida jaan o tan sathiyo, ab tumhare hawale watan sathiyo." But he also loves two more songs which depict the emotions of a soldier quite well. Hoke majboor mujhse usne bulaya hoga, both from the Hakikat, the film Hakikat, and Sande se aate hai from the film Border. He has seen hundreds of war films in several languages and loves Life is Beautiful, The Great Escape, Schindler's List, Inglourious Bastards, Hakikat, Border, and Uri. He is a hodophile, a melophile, cinephile, bibliophile, and a polyglot, meaning he loves travel, music, movies, books, and languages. Let us welcome past District Governor, distinguished Toastmaster Prasad Soviti.
Good evening, friends, and special good evening to two very distinguished guests at our meeting today, Vice Admiral Sunil Bhokreji and Major General DTM Shabri Girish Kanjoli. These are really high-ranked officers. I'll explain about that in a moment for you. You all know that Indian Army is headed by a post called General, and Indian Navy is headed by someone called Admiral, while Indian Air Force is headed by someone called, what is the post? Air Chief Marshal. Okay. So these are three commanding officers of the entire force of Army, Navy, and Air Force. The second ranked officer in Navy is Vice Admiral. And today we are indeed honored to have such a highly ranked officer amongst our presence here today. Similarly, in Army, we have general, then we have lieutenant general, and then we have major general. And our own former member, past president of Toastmasters Club of Pune East, past area director, distinguished Toastmaster Shabri Girish Kanjuli, is currently a major general in the Indian Army, and his next post will be lieutenant general. We pray that he works longer in the army to go even further. So these are really highly ranked officers, very senior officers in our forces. And our club is indeed honored to have their presence amongst us today. I was just looking at the biodata of our friend, rather distinguished guest, Sunilji Bhokreji, Vice Admiral. And by the way, he has his own flag. I didn't know that. I just looked at Wikipedia and learned that there is a special flag for the post of Vice Admiral. So he joined Indian Navy when I was in NCC, 1984, and he's continued to serve till 2020-21. And he served in various capacities, rising to the level of Vice Admiral. He was trained, sent for training by Indian Navy in various locations such as Riga, which is now in Latvia. That time it was in USSR, as well as Canberra in Australia, where he acquired additional skills which helped Indian Navy later on. And some of you might have seen a movie called Ghazi Attack, in which they have shown submarines. So he has commanded 5 + 3, 8 submarines in a similar manner. So he was directing them while he was underwater. So submarines is a very important part of Indian Navy, and he was heading those when he was a officer of that rank, where he was supposed to be sailing. Once you become senior, then you don't sail much, you manage the things, or you lead the army or navy. Similarly, Shabri Girish Kanjuli is a doctor who joined Indian Army because he wanted to serve the nation. And while doing that, he came across Toastmasters. So he not only joined, he also started a club when he was serving in AFMC, Armed Force Medical College. And the club had that venue for a long time. I think 2 or 3 years we met there. Toastmasters Club of Pune East or Pune Camp. Later on, after he left AFMC, many other officers who had joined while he was there also left AFMC, and we couldn't continue meeting there because we didn't have enough number of army men or Faujis in our club at that time. So then the club shifted to another venue. So friends, as Akash mentioned earlier, we feel it's cold at 15 degrees. Delhiites feel it's cold at 8 degrees. But army men work at -15, -30, -40, and they never complain. And we feel we give too much importance to our film stars and cricketers who just play for themselves at times. They play for money, they act for money. Whereas these people are willing to give even their life for the country. So we should respect them more than anybody else. And that is why I have highest regard for armed forces of India. And whenever I meet any army personnel, I always respect them and share my regards to them. I must show that respect to them whenever we interact with each other. So I have highest regard for them. I believe you all should have that highest respect for these officers as well. As a token of, I'm sorry, I'm coughing today. I must get a test made tomorrow maybe. So as a token of appreciation for these very highly ranked officers, let us applaud them. Please give your applause right now. Okay, maybe turn your audio on and applaud for them. With that, I hand over to you, Toastmaster of the Day, Akash.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your exceptional address. Let me introduce my fellow colleagues who will help me in control and conduct of this meeting. To maintain order in the meeting, we have a person who has completed graduation in town and country planning. Currently, he is pursuing MBA. She loves to sing, trek, travel a lot, and meet new people, play chess and badminton. She is Toastmaster Ankita Dev. To keep track of time, we have a senior consultant working with internal audit firm, who likes traveling, adores food, and loves playing sports. He also loves any form of art. He is Toastmaster Kaivalya Gune. To keep track of pauses and fillers that we use, she is an engineering graduate, currently working with her father in his business. She loves dance, art, and gymming. She is Toastmaster Tiyaswini Thakur. To give us critical feedback of the language we use and highlight upon the good and not so good uses of English, we have someone who is pursuing his bachelor's degree in microbiology. His hobbies are to play football and cricket. Let us welcome Toastmaster Tej Sharma, who will now introduce the word of the day and idiom of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the day. Good evening, Mr. President, Toastmaster of the day, distinguished Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and my dear guests. I am Tej Sharma, the language evaluator for today. I will now introduce the word of the day and idiom of the day. The word of the day is valor. It means great courage in the face of danger, especially in battle. An example of how it can be used in a sentence would be: the absence of indecision, even in the face of death, is a true mark of valor. Would anyone like to try making their own sentence using the word of the day?
Can I try?
Yes. Yes, Toastmaster Tamanna.
Army men displayed great valor in Kargil war.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tamanna. Now I move on to the idiom of the day. The idiom of the day is bite the bullet. It means to force yourself to do something unpleasant or difficult, or to be brave in a difficult situation. An example of how it can be used in a sentence would be: I hate going to the dentist, but I'll just have to bite the bullet. Would anyone in the audience would like to use the idiom of the day?
Yeah, can I?
Yes,
Tej?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, distinguished Toastmaster.
Services people or the armed forces, they always bite the bullet because they are in such a situation at the border or at any place that they have no choice but to do that.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Bijur. In Toastmasters, we encourage all the speakers who use the word of the day or idiom of the day by giving them showing the thumbs up to them. You can either do it physically or you can do it virtually. If you want to do it virtually, then below your screen there's a reactions button where you can show your thumbs up. I will also be noting down the good usage of the English language and also the not so good usage of the English language. And with the not so good usage of the English language, I will also give many alternatives to that word. I will present my report at the end of the meeting when the Toastmaster of the day calls me. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Tej Sharma. Now, someone else will be observing everything that will happen tonight. Later, that person will give us feedback about the proceedings, the environment, and general comments. To act as general evaluator, we have a product manager working with an e-commerce firm. Also, he has been a past VP, which is Vice President Education of the club. He loves trekking, swimming, and road trips. Let us welcome with a huge round of applause, distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Bijur. Moving forward, let's hear one more tune, which all of us will recognize. So you all might recognize this tune, Sare Jahan Se Acha. It's formerly known as Tarana-e-Hind, which is Anthem of the People of Hindustan. It's basically an Urdu language patriotic song for children written by poet Muhammad Iqbal. This poem was published in weekly journal Ittihad on 16th August 1904. The song, an ode to Hindustan, a land comprising of present-day Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. It was later published in an Urdu book called Bang-e-Dara. This song is now popularly used by Indian Army officials and everywhere, and also during the march passes. Coming to the agenda, we will, the first half consists of 2 speakers. Both speakers are senior officers in the armed forces. Join me in welcoming the esteemed speakers. The first speaker, Major General Dr. Shabri Girish Kanjuri. For him, the time allowed is 13 to 15 minutes, meaning the lighting sequence is green at 13 minutes, yellow at 14 minutes, red at 15 minutes. The buzzer will sound at 15.5 minutes. The title of the speech is 3 lessons. The speaker is doctor by profession, soldier by nature, and Toastmaster by passion. Let's welcome distinguished Toastmaster, Major General Dr. Shabri Girish Kanjuri.
Am I audible?
Girish, just 1 minute. Before Girish begins, please, all the admins or all co-hosts, remember to block any attempt like the previous meeting. Okay. If somebody tries to hijack the meeting, stop them immediately, mute them. Okay.
Every soldier in the armed forces wears 2 things on his shoulders. The first, of course, what he wears with pride on his shoulder is the uniform that he is in. And the second, what he has across his shoulder is a haversack. A haversack with a bunch of stories that he has collected from his life and his experiences. If you care to listen to them, some of the stories would be exhilaratingly entertaining. Some others would be enormously educating. And some would be greatly enriching and energizing. But if you dig deep into these stories, you will always find that it hides within it a gem, a pearl of wisdom, which if we bother to learn, it could change your life in a much better way. Admiral Bhojraj, President of the Toastmasters Club Pune, DTM Prasad Somni, and Toastmaster of the Day, and my dear friends. I'm here today to share 3 such stories which I had collected from 3 of my colleagues at different points of time in the last 34 years. And in looking at them and hearing to them, I'm sure that all of us will learn a life lesson which could make a change in your life. The year was 1989, and I was a young regimental medical officer posted to a battalion, an infantry battalion, which was then deployed in the subtropical jungles in Sri Lanka. On that particular day, they were actually employed in a search and cordon operation in an area full of insurgents. And in this counterinsurgency operation, on that particular day, they had set forth a patrol of 10 soldiers in an insurgent-infested country. My job as a medical officer was to give them the medical cover if things go wrong, which usually did not. And on that balmy day, everything went smooth. But well, suddenly, there was a boom, a blast of magnanimous proportion, and followed by a rattle of bullets here and there and a few shrieks and cries a little far away from where I was. And at that moment, I knew the game was afoot. Something had gone wrong, and it was my job to rush to the spot and help those who were in trouble. Me with my medical team of medical technicians and the stuff that we had rushed, and we were there in about 10-15 minutes. And the sight I saw there was one of absolute mayhem. Lying around in a pool of blood were the bodies of 6 brave soldiers, and next to them were 4 who had managed to survive the initial siege. The job of a medical officer in the army in a situation like this is to quickly assess the status of these who are injured, assess who can actually, who will survive evacuation to the nearest hospital, because the hospitals are not nearby. And we give the best of chance to those who have likelihood and survive, and the others we treat them with whatever we can at that point of time. As I went to the first, to the second, to the third, each of them had grievous injuries, and I made my decisions to evacuate or not evacuate till I came to the last body. There he was, I still remember his name, Ramesh, a young soldier. And where he lay was a pool of blood. Where his limb was, lower leg was, it was a mangle of flesh, blood, and bones. And right from there was a gushing, pulsating fountain of blood from one of those torn arteries. The decision for me was instant. Somewhere professionally, I knew that he was not going to make it. And it was my job to revive him and do what best we can while let the others who can survive move on. So there I went in, we did the intravenous line, we started giving him tubonic morphine, we put the bandages across and a tight tourniquet, hoping that we would control the blood flow. It was not too much good. Anyway, as I said and moved on to the next job, I just casually asked him, "How are you feeling?" The answer that he gave me sent a chill down my spine. And what he said was, "I'm fighting fit, sir." At that instant, something quivered right inside me. Here was a man who has grievously injured fighting for a war for his nation. And now he was fighting for a war for his life, much bigger and much greater. And at the end of it, when he knew his chances are low, his spirits were still high. And his answer that everything is good and I'm fighting fit actually made me think for an instant that I should forget my profession and let this one who has the fight still left in him to live, evacuate him and let the God take the decision. Wrong professional decision, but then I made it and I pushed him. As I pushed him into the ambulance, he sort of waved back and said, "Everything will be okay, sir." It was a wrong decision probably for me at that point of time. I was actually taken a decision to send him to the hospital where he may survive on the way or not. Well, it faded from my memory soon thereafter. However, 15 years later, while sitting in my OPD and attending to my patients, there walks in a smart JCO, that is a junior commissioned officer, smiles at me broadly and asked me the question, "Do you remember me?" Of course, I did not remember him. And then he slowly lifts the sleeve of his pants and there was shining a gleaming artificial leg. That instant, the whole story that happened 15 years back went through my mind. And I said, "You are the Ramesh who was there at that point of time?" And he said, "Yes, sir." And to add with a tint of humor, he said, "I now stand on my own legs, sir." My dear Toastmasters, I just need to tell you what true valor is. True valor is, as Mark Twain said, it's not the size of the dog in the fight that matters. It is the size of the fight in that dog which matters. And it was true valor that he depicted that day. And I learned this great lesson that it is so easy to put a dot and end the story, while you have the power within you to put a few more and let the story continue. Years passed by, and I had, from a medical officer, had now become a specialist, an ENT specialist. And I was actually looking after the ENT patients in a big hospital, one of our apex hospital in Delhi. And I had one of the patients who was a fairly senior Air Force officer, an ace pilot in his heydays. And he had come to me with a gruffy voice, which when we tested and biopsied, turned out to be a small cancerous growth in his throat. And that was the day when I had to tell him and his wife the sad part of the story, that from now on, there is nothing much we doctors can do. And it is Almighty above who will be taking care of you. It was a situation when every doctor bites the bullet to tell the truth to a patient face on. Well, as I told him this, I expected a lot of reaction from him. But he sat there, looked at me, smiled, and said, "The show must go on, doctor." He saluted me and gently walked out of that room that day. I never saw him for months after that, and a few months later, he passed away. And I had gone to his house to offer my condolences to his wife. And as I was leaving, she just called me, "Doctor, do you remember that day when he told you that when he heard the news, he told you that the show must go on? Do you know why he said that?" I said, "I don't." And she said, "If you have 2 minutes, let me tell you a story." Apparently, this officer, let's call him Joey, as he was called by his mates, was an ace pilot, as they call a master grade fighter pilot. And such good fighter pilots are incorporated into the aerobatic team of the Indian Air Force. And years ago, on one particular major Air Force event, he was actually leading a squadron of what they call the aerobatic pilots into an air show. They are daredevils in the sky, and they were giving an aerial display of an extremely complicated as well as dangerous procedures on with his mate of six aircrafts. The day was planned to precision, and everything depended upon the precision with which they are executed. They are trained to do that. There was a event 1, event 2, and 3, and the fourth one and the last one was scheduled to be finishing in very soon. The first went well, the second formation went well, but at the third, as a head of the team, he could see that one of his wingmates had gone into a spiral, the second one and the third one, and he was to pull off, but for some reason, just before he was to pull off, he could not get enough thrust to pull the aircraft up. Right before his eyes, the aircraft disappeared in a bunch of trees, and a minute later, there was a firewall and a mushroom cloud. And he knew that things are gone awry. At that point of time, as the leader of the squadron, he has to give the directions to the rest of the team to proceed or not to proceed, as they call it, abort the mission or not. And apparently, when every one of the members called in to ask whether to abort or not, Joey coolly radioed back, "We will proceed. The show must go on." Gentlemen, there are instances in our life where we think everything around us is falling apart. There are times in my Toastmasters career when I have gone with a prepared speech which I had rehearsed so far, so well, And at that point of time, everything in me froze. No words came out. That was probably the end of the day as far as I am concerned. And now, ever after I heard the story, I have believed and I practice that come what may, we are all actors on a stage. And whatever happens, our show must go on. Let me fast forward to a year before in 2021. I was now looking after a huge number of hospitals in northern India. And as a part of my job, it was to provide all support and help during the pandemic, which was reigning high. And the whole hospital after hospital started getting tsunami of patients coming in, and their resources were running thin. At one particular point, I had to rush to Agra, where in the military hospital, there were tons of patients on oxygen support on ventilators, but the oxygen supply had nearly finished. There were no replenishments coming. Whatever oxygen that was available were being diverted to various other places. And then there we were, me and the head of the hospital standing in the ICU, looking at each other. We didn't speak to each other, but we knew what we had to do. Someone who did not and could not possibly make it had to be pulled off their oxygen support to give it to the next one who might. There to the right of me was a retired general in his 80s on a ventilator, on an oxygen support with desperate requirement for oxygen for his survival. And next to him was a soldier from Nepal, a Gurkha soldier, fairly young, who also required, but we did not have the support that we required. Nothing was said, nothing need to be actually told, because we had to take a decision to take it off from one and give it to the other. A few seconds later, the gentleman general who was there on with his oxygen support beckoned us. He could not speak because of the face mask. He asked for the paper and he scribbled on it something which I have kept till today. And I cherish what he wrote that day. Gentlemen, what he wrote or scribbled on that paper was this: save his life, for I have lived mine. Well, courage, as we know, is not just going around with big guns and putting bullets into those whom you do not want to survive. Courage is not about making great stories about the life that you have lived. Courage is about possibly giving what you have for the benefit of the others, especially to your brethren. And as you grow in Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, you will realize that you will come to a stage then when you have more to give than to take. As an evaluator, as a broad mentor, we should not feel shy, because we become bigger and greater by giving all that you have, so that someone else steps up in his profession. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we must come to terms with a world that we lived in. We, army men, of course, the people in the armed forces have tough life. They have to live in hard terrain. They have climates which we cannot even think of. They are cut away from the civilization and their near ones. But we also in the metros have a tough life, don't we? We eternally have to fight to make choices, whether it's going to be the McBurger today or is it KFC, whether it is Netflix or Amazon Prime, whether it is pasta or whether it's a pizza. But remember, whenever you are stuck in a world like this, where you feel your life is difficult and tough, remember those men who guard the borders, who give their life to guard the nation, so that you can live to make your choices and make your life better. Ladies and gentlemen, it is to them that I salute. It is to them that I bow in gratitude. Jai Hind.
such an inspiring speech. We all really respect you and the journey you had. Let's pause for 30 seconds and write feedback for the speaker in chat window.
Thirty seconds are up.
Thank you.
TMOD,
The
I'm muting everyone. Please unmute yourself and please unmute Admiral Bhokre, sir. I'm muting everyone so that they cannot interrupt when you are speaking, sir. Okay.
Let's start with.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry. Let's start with the second speech, where the Admiral Sunil Bhokre. The time allowed is 15 to 17 minutes, meaning the lighting sequence is green at 15 minutes, yellow at 16 minutes, red at 17 minutes. The buzzer will sound at 17.5 minutes. The title of the speech is Geopolitical Scenario Surrounding India in Indian Ocean. Admiral Sunil Bhokre was commissioned into Indian Navy on 1 Jan 1984. The Admiral obtained his watchkeeping certificate on board the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant, following which he joined the submarine arm in 1986. In January 1987, the officer was deputed to Riga, USSR for submarine training and was commissioning crew of INS Sindhuratna. The flag officer specializes in navigation and direction and has served as the navigating officer of 5 submarines and has been executive officer of 3 submarines. He attended the Defense Services Staff Course, Wellington, India in 1996. The flag officer qualified the submarine commanding officers course in 1998 and thereafter commanded 3 frontline submarines of the Indian Navy, namely INS Sindhu Ghosh, Sindhu Dhwaj, and Sindhu Shastra. He was promoted to the rank of captain in 2004 and attended Army Higher Command course in the prestigious Army War College in India. He also commanded the submarine squadrons as Commodore commanding submarines West and the base INS Vijay Bahu from 2006 to 2008. The flag officer has also commanded a guided missile frigate INS Bees from 2008 to 2009. The officer successfully completed Defense and Strategic Studies course in the renowned Australian Defense College, Canberra. On completion of the course, he carried out the duties of Chief Staff Officer Operations in Headquarters, Eastern Naval Command at Vizag. He was promoted to flag rank on 1 September 2012 and took over as Flag Officer Submarines on 22nd September 2012. The flag officer subsequently was promoted to the rank of Vice Admiral and took over as the Commandant, Indian Naval Academy on 20 October 16. His last posting was at Naval Headquarters, New Delhi, and carried out the duties of Inspector General Nuclear Safety from March 2018 till his superannuation on 31st August 2021. The Admiral is a recipient of 3 President Awards, namely Ati Vishta Seva Medal, Yuddha Seva Medal, and now Sena Medal. Sunil Bhokre sir is married to Meena, who is yoga therapist and consultant. They are blessed with a daughter who is MBA in finance and currently working with Taj Group of Hotels in Chennai. The flag officer enjoys playing golf and is an avid reader. Let's welcome Admiral Bhokre.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to participate in this webinar. As was told, My topic is going to be geopolitical scenario in Indian Ocean region. I know it's a bit different topic for you all, but since I'm a naval officer, it is my bread and butter to know about the maritime scenario surrounding us. Let me go back to the brief background. Everybody thinks that Indian Ocean name has been given by India to this ocean. That's not the correct way. In the ancient times, this particular ocean was called Ratnakar. That means it is a mine of gems. As years and decades passed by, in 1515, Latins, they started calling this as Hind Mahasagar. That was because of a rich trade which was flowing from India to different countries through Indian Ocean. And I hope this name continues. And you all know that what I want to say is that I hope the name doesn't get changed. Let me tell you the importance of Indian Ocean region. The large number of choke points are there in this region, starting with a Strait of Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb. There is 10-degree channel, there is 6-degree channel, there is a Tondra Head, south of Sri Lanka, Malacca Straits, Sonda Straits, Lombok Strait, and Ombay Straits. These are the major straits in Indian Ocean region. And as you all must be knowing, 60% of world trade flows through this region. All these big giants, China, Japan, South Korea, for them, this region is lifeline. Hence, appropriately, it is named Indian Ocean region because India stands out as head of all countries in this region. And our nation has got the longest coastline in this region. We have 7,516 kilometers of coastline, larger than any country in Indian Ocean region. Since we stand out as head in this region, it is our moral responsibility to be the first responder in times of crisis, be it natural disasters, be it man-made disasters. We have to prove that we are there to help anyone who's got a problem in this region. And we have done it years and years ago, or we are still doing it. Tsunami happened. We were the first responders to various nations. Yemen crisis, our warships were there to evacuate our diaspora from this region. There was a submarine accident recently, and our teams were ready to go for helping them. Our search and rescue teams were ready at short notice to go. So since I have been given limited time, let me just talk about our immediate neighbors in this region, which has got a tremendous impact from maritime point of view in the geopolitical scenario. Let me begin with Sri Lanka. Now, as you know, through our epics, Ramayana's days, the importance of this region. Ram Setu was built that time, that's what the epic says. But mind you, when we see this region in low tide, or even the satellite pictures, it actually shows that there is a thin line of connection. And many times, large part of it gets surfaced in low tide. In fact, it is so prominent that even now, large draft ships can't transit across this area. Colombo is a big transshipment port for Sri Lanka, and that is a major revenue earner for this port. But as far as political situation goes, there is a small island called Kachithip, which is 25 kilometers from Rameshwaram. And historically, all our fishermen have been fishing in and around this island. And there is a very old Catholic church on this island, where our large population from Tamil Nadu goes for praying there. And this area is also quite famous for prawns. But in 1974, Indian government, due to some reason, political reason, handed over this island to Sri Lankan government. And then started the chaos. Because Tamilians always visit this island. They always fish around this island. And though initially we had permission to use this area around, but as years passed by, Sri Lankan government said it is our territory and our fishermen should not venture into that. And mind you, that crisis is still not resolved. So this is a sore point between us and Sri Lankans. Next comes Hambantota. You all must be knowing that Chinese have built this port for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka initially took help from Chinese to make this port. They thought that they will start earning huge revenue from this, but that did not happen. In fact, now Sri Lankans are unable to pay the debt to Chinese. So now Chinese have come out with a plan that they will run this port. So you can imagine the strategic importance of this port. We have Chinese sitting right next door. Similarly, they have one more port, Trincomalee, which is equally important for us. Presently, we have our training teams there. We train Sri Lankans, our instructors go there. So it is very important for us to keep Sri Lankans engaged so that we have in real sense a friendly neighborhood. Now let me move on to Myanmar. Myanmar, there is no maritime dispute between us and Myanmar, but there is a small island called Great Cocos Island, which is of a small size of 20 square kilometers. It has got a small airstrip, and this belongs to Myanmar. It is located at the North Andamans, very, very close to our Andaman Islands. Now you must be knowing this is an uninhabited island. Why is it so important? Chinese have actually installed sensors and tracking radars there because this is in line of sight with our missile testing facility, which is in Orissa. So they can actually track our missiles which are fired for rehearsals or for practice or for trials. So that way it is a big, we have to keep track of all activities happening there. And in future, actually, Chinese can develop this. They can actually install few nuclear reactors there because it is thinly populated. In fact, actually, besides these security people, nobody else stays on this island. So that is as far as Myanmar is concerned. Now let's move on to Bangladesh. Bangladesh, we actually have very, very large boundary with Bangladesh, almost 4,000 kilometers. And it is on all three sides of our country, north, east, and west. There was a maritime dispute earlier, few years back, when there was a small island called New Moor Island, which is to actually surface only in great low tides. So Indians had claimed that island, that it belongs to India. Similarly, Bangladeshis claimed that. The matter went to United Nations. However, a few years back, United Nations actually gave a decision in favor of Bangladesh. And Indians also didn't contest it. They agreed. So as of now, actually, there is no maritime dispute between us and Bangladesh. But like I said, there are large inland waters connections between Bangladesh and us. And that is a place where we have to actually guard because large amount of smuggling takes place around that place. Or smuggling means in terms of other equipment besides human traffic. So we have to guard against that. And we have to be very, very careful in this area as well. I'm sure you all must be interested in knowing about maritime dispute with Pakistan. We have almost 3,323 kilometers of border with Pakistan. But I will talk about only 96 kilometers, which is a maritime boundary between us. And the dispute here is on the Sir Creek. There is a creek, river creek, named as Sir Creek. Now the dispute is Pakistan claims that the center of navigable channel should be the separation line between India and Pakistan. But they dispute actually the center of navigable channel because of this tide and river pattern, the center keeps shifting, and it has got an impact on exclusive economic zone. So that dispute actually is unresolved. And though so many hydrographic surveys have been carried out, but Pakistan doesn't agree to it, and Indians also don't agree to Pakistan's point of view. So it is actually a open-ended dispute, and I don't think it's going to get resolved soon. But because of this, there is a large number of our fishermen get caught by Pakistanis and vice versa. And you all know what had happened on 26/11. So there is a very, very little difference. I mean, how to differentiate between Pakistani fishermen and Indian fishermen? So that is a constant struggle for our Coast Guard and for our Navy. Because whatever appliances, whatever techniques they use, it is extremely difficult to distinguish between their fishing boats and our fishing boats. And many times we actually keep patrolling, keep carrying out surveys there. And many times there are many interesting incidences which take place. In fact, when I was commanding a ship, frontline ship, there were instances when I actually ventured out into these waters and was very close to Pakistani waters. So immediately when some Pakistani warship will start trailing you, and then we will exchange pleasantries, sometimes not so pleasant pleasantries, but it things keeps going on from day to day in these waters. And you all must be knowing that Indian Navy is huge Navy compared to Pakistan Navy, but then they get into small tricks, something unusual which keeps happening in these areas, which I would not like to deliberate upon now. Now let me move on to China. By the way, we don't have any maritime border with China, but that is the biggest threat for us. Why? The biggest worry for China is that huge their trade, that full crude oil, actually 80% of this crude oil passes through our waters. Their biggest worry is if we manage to block their choke points, that is Malacca Straits or Sonda Straits, Lombok Straits, how will their crude transit to their country? Even if they manage to get crude through Arctic route or through Pacific route, but what about the finished goods? Because all these nations, they actually depend on Chinese finished goods. The biggest market, African market, Sri Lankan, all these places where Chinese goods are sold, Chinese will suffer if these things are blocked. So it's always matter of worry for China. They actually call it Malacca dilemma. Though they are resorting to many ways, they are making China-Pakistan economic corridor. They are trying to have pipelines pass through Myanmar. They are trying to have pipelines pass through Pakistani ports so that crude could reach them. But it comes out quite expensive. What they are doing now, they're actually encircling our country. Like I told you before, Hambantota port they have taken over. Similarly, Gwadar port in Pakistan has been built by Chinese help. They are trying to make some port in Maldives. They already have a base in Djibouti, which is in Arabian Sea close to us. Similarly, they are helping Myanmar to construct Sittwe port. Similarly, they are doing something in Thailand. So it's a constant worry for us, and we have to be prepared for that. You all must be knowing that India has got almost 23 to 25 oil refineries. Pakistan has got only 6. China has got almost 40 oil refineries. So whatever crude traffic takes place through this region, all these nations are actually worried if Indians act funny, what will happen to their trade? What will happen to the crude supply? So the way we have to prepare is we have to have a very, very strong navy, because it is going to have impact on future political scenario. And that is what our government has understood, and huge amount of importance is given to Indian Navy these days. Some funds are getting sanctioned because we have to procure large assets. We have to procure three-dimensional assets. As you know, in Navy, we operate ships, we operate aircraft carriers from where we can fly fighters. We have got reconnaissance aircraft, which are shore-based, and we have submarines. In fact, we are into strategic submarines now, nuclear capable, both propulsion-wise and armament-wise. So that is the way to go about, so that we are prepared for any eventuality which happens in this region. Now, that's what I will not cover other political scenario where multinational teams take part in these waters. I would like to end with this, and I don't know whether there is a Q&A session, but next time I would like to cover few incidences which I encountered during my naval service. Some interesting ones when I was patrolling of enemy coast on 2-3 occasions, and how we operate at sea. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity, and I'll sign off now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us an overall picture of India's neighbors and the current scenarios of the Indian maritime security. It was very informative to hear the in-depth situation of the borders. Let's pause for 30 seconds to write feedback for the speaker in the chat window.
Thirty seconds are over.
Thank you. So let's have the timers report now. Toastmaster Kaivalya, please can you give us the exact timings for the speakers?
So Speaker 1, Major General BTM Shabri Girish took 17 minutes and 45 seconds. And Speaker 2, Admiral Bukre took 16 minutes 40 seconds to deliver his speech. Over to you, Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think let's have a break of 5 minutes, as it's 6:02. Is that fine? Timer?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
5-minute break.
Thank you.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you. So we just listened to Mard Ami Marathe Khare. The history of this song is in 1967, Colonel NPP Thorat, Central Commandant, MLIRC, met with a renowned musician and singer Shri Sudhir Phadke and requested him to compose a song for the regiment. Shri Sudhir Phadke immediately sent a telegram to Shri Suresh Bhatt requesting him to write the lyrics for the song. Shri Bhatt was a noted poet from Maharashtra. Suresh Bhatt camped at Mumbai for 10 days and completed the song, which he called Coach Geet, meaning marching song. Shri Phadke asked Shri Bhatt to write the lyrics to suit the foxtrot rhythm. Since the lyrics were written to suit the marching rhythm, the final song became very motivating for all ranks, where first recording of the song was done at the Maratha House at Belgaum. This song is officially introduced as a regimental song in 1967, lyrics of which highlight the valor of the soldiers of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Initial line of the song describes how enemy gets terrified at the sight of the brave Marathas when they first joined battle to safeguard honor and integrity of the country. The last stanza describes how Marathas respect their country like God. and keep the land sacred by their sacrifices. They do not mind sacrificing the life for their country because they know that the tales of their valor will be remembered forever. Now, let's test our ability to think fast and speak impromptu in the table topic session. The table topic master, she is a motivational speaker and her hobbies are reading and listening to music. Her interests include reading and writing. Let's welcome Toastmaster Tamanna Ahuja.
Thanks, Toastmaster of the Day. Good evening, Mr. President, Toastmaster of the Day, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The purpose of the table topics is to develop the ability to think on your feet. I'm going to invite some Toastmasters and guests to speak on a topic each. To qualify for the voting, a speaker must speak between 1 minute and 2 minutes 30 seconds. The timer will give signals as follows. Green card will be flashed at the end of 1 minute, yellow at the end of 1 minute and 30 seconds, and red at the end of 2 minutes. There will be a grace period of 30 seconds to wrap up at the end of which a card with a bell will be shown. Now I would like to call Toastmaster Gargi. Okay, Toastmaster Kailash Sutar.
Yes.
Which freedom fighter inspires you the most?
Good evening, everyone. To me, Chandrasekhar Azad inspired me the most. The basically from a childhood, even in my school, there were a chapter on the freedom fighter, particularly Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, and all the freedom fighters. And I like the Azad most. Basically, the way he helped in our fight against the British and to achieve our freedom to the nation. And yeah, thanks. Tamanna.
Next, I would like to call guest Piyush. Piyush, your topic is, what qualities of freedom fighters would you like to imbibe in yourself?
Okay. Thank you, Table Topics Master Tamanna. To be honest, to be a freedom fighter, to fight for the independence of India would have been a great honor and an act of valor to face the British army, to face the oppressive colonial army, and to face at times death, and to accept it just for the freedom of our motherland. So the qualities that I think I would like to imbibe would be the aggressive mindset of doing things, setting up an army like Subhash Chandra Bose did with the Indian
Piyush, are you there?
Piyush?
Your camera is off or something else happened.
We can move on.
Okay, fine. I would like to call guest Rahul Dubey. You're on mute, Rahul.
Yeah. Hi. I hope I am audible.
There's a lot of background noise. Somebody please
Yeah.
mute that.
Yeah. Now it should be
Okay.
quite
I
enough.
think your kids are shouting in the background.
Yeah.
Rahul, your topic is, what is your most memorable Republic Day celebration?
So for me, always the Republic Day celebration during the childhood when we used to go to the schools, and in that school, each and every child was just simply dressed in a white PT dress we used to get, and our flag gets unfurled. And at that time, when somebody's singing those songs and those acts which we used to see, those little skits used to fill us with enthusiasm. But back then, after 10, 15 years, and let's say recently, 2 years back, when I was there at Rajpath along with my father, mother, watching everybody doing the parade right in front of my eyes. That is the time when you hear the news, when you listen to what is happening around. These people for whom we always, and many of the people take them as granted what their valor is. People need to realize, the society need to realize how much they are doing it. I feel very frustrated when somebody says that, okay, you are a doctor, I am an engineer, we are doing our job. Similarly, they are the soldiers, they are doing their job. No, my dear friend, our job might be for ourselves, for our own sake. But if out of 100% people who are standing in armed forces, if you say we are not going to give you salary, still there would be many people who will still stand and say, I'm still ready to serve. Are you going to do the same? I guess not. That is the difference between doing a service. And that's why it is called defense services. It is not called an army, navy, and all. Altogether, it is called defense services. And we are called as professionals. We are working for something. We are working for some, but that is not possible unless and until our border is guarded. And that's why I feel the importance is very much high. I still remember when I was there at SSB board of Bhopal to give an interview to be an armed officer. And there it was written, "Oh warrior, don't give up fighting. Let silence be heard." So war is the only solution for the silence. Over to you, teacher.
Now I would like to call guest Sanjeevani. Sanjeevani, can you start your, yeah. What do you normally do during Republic Day holiday?
Good evening, everyone. Actually, now I am a working professional. I am a civil engineer, and on our side, on every Republic Day and Independence Day, program is arranged of flag hosting. So I attend that. I love attending that program from childhood. It gives a different vibe, the feeling of proud when everyone gives speeches and all. I love attending that program. Apart from now, those were childhood Republic Days were the most memorable days, because in those days I used to give speeches as a student, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sanjeevani. Now I'd like to call guest Shreya. Shreya?
Yes.
Yes. The topic is, what if a country had not received independence?
Okay, so this it's if a country would haven't received independence, then the scenario would be like quite a way roll upside down. We face like we now have our own constitution our own rules and regulations, our own liberties, responsibilities, and roles. If in the case we were not being granted independence, our freedom fighters would not have, fought for their independence the way they launched a lot of, marches and fighting against the Britishers. I guess it's so hard, it's difficult to even imagine how our lives would be when we don't have independence or freedom. Just like you can imagine a case of a bird which is, caught in a cage, and how his or its life would be. So, we should be grateful to all our freedom fighters for, fighting for our right and providing us with this independence that we are celebrating, Independence and Republic Day. Thank you.
Welcome. Now I'd like to call guest Neha. Neha, can you switch on your camera?
Yes.
Neha, your topic is, why would you not join politics?
Oh, why would I not join politics? Okay, so when politics as a word comes to my mind, all I think about is games and strategies and a lot of corruption, to be very honest. So I think I'm a kind of person who really don't enjoy that kind of atmosphere. So talking about the negative part, this is a thing which I don't like. But if given a chance to join politics, then there's a lot of scope of improvement, a lot of sectors where things can be changed and are changing since pretty long. So I will not be in a position to say that why I would not like to join politics. Rather, if given a choice, if given a chance or a choice, I think I would prefer doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Now I'd like to call Varun Miglani.
Ma'am, actually I am traveling in a day, so my network is unstable, so I would like to be excused for this time. I would have participated, but there would have been disturbance. I'm very sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Now I would like to call Hanuman. Guest Hanuman. I think he is left. Now I'd like to call Advait Dikshit. Toastmaster Advait Dikshit.
Yes.
Why should our youth take an active part in our country's politics?
Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and all dear guests. Why should youth take an active part in today's politics? The way I see it is this, that the next generation, or I would say the people who will be handling the country, who will be dealing with the everyday job, everyday work of this country, maintaining its defenses, handling its politics, everything, it will be done by the youth of today. But the thing is that if you look at the current situation, there are some things in this country which the youth seems to be more aware about, whereas the current generation, which is handling all the issues in the country or have been handling the issues for several years, they seem to not always be completely aware of some of the things happening in the country. Like, for example, if like a very basic example would be something like this. Last year we had, I think last year, there was this big talk going on about how this Chinese application called TikTok is actually stealing a lot of information and how it is not good for the country, and it was eventually banned. But the people who are more aware of it, the people who are constantly engaged with it, are the youth, and not the people sitting in the Supreme Court or even the parliament. So since the youth is more aware of things like cryptocurrency, Web 3.0, social media, and a lot of things, it will be better if they participate in these issues more. And again, whatever happens today is eventually going to affect the future. And that too is a good reason for the youth to be involved. So over to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Advait. Now I like to call DTN Nagappan sir. Nagappan Palyanappan. So your topic is, has Mahatma Gandhi inspired you and how?
Honorable President, the Chief Guest, Sabrigiri Sir, and Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, good evening to all of you. And has Mahatma Gandhi inspired you? Yes, Mahatma Gandhi is a leader, I think, who inspired all of us. I think in our school and whatever the mode or medium in which we might have studied, whether it is a state board or whatever the state or central board, everywhere we have studies, we have lessons about Mahatma Gandhi. And also, we also have read his autobiography about how he has been a very simple person and how he was following the principles of ahimsa or maybe non-violence, and with which I think he has slowly convinced the British people. Maybe there is another approach. I think how Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was doing it. So I think currently the objective is to see that how Mahatma Gandhi has inspired us. So definitely I think he had his own approach of non-violence, which he followed, and he has inspired all the Indians to follow him. And that he has, with that, I think he helped us to get the freedom. So definitely Mahatma Gandhi has inspired me, and not only me, all of us. And so I think we are following even today. I think basically if you look at our principles of India, how we do it, I think we are people from non-violence. I think violence may be there at some sector, but otherwise non-violence is the basic one. So that is because of Mahatma Gandhi's thing. And so he inspired all of us, and we are following his principles even today also in many areas. Thank you, and over to the topics master.
Thank you, sir. Now we would like to have voting. Timer, are all qualified?
Yeah, so except Toastmaster Kailash, everyone has been qualified for the voting.
Okay, fine. Now we will have voting for the best table topics.
Timer, can you please read the names once? So I'll just confirm that I have marked all of them.
Yeah, so the first speaker was Toastmaster Kailash, then guest Piyush, guest Rahul, guest Sanjeevani, guest Shreya, guest Neha, Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Nagappan.
Okay, so I had missed out one name. I'll just add that.
Did you say Advait?
Yeah, he was the second last.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I launch poll. Please vote. And the co-hosts, please message me your votes. Direct message. Don't look at other votes. Just message me your name, whatever was name you felt was good.
This concludes the table topic session, which I hope was as enjoyable for you to participate and witness as it was for me to conduct. With this, I hand over the stage to Toastmaster of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Toastmaster Tamanna Ahuja. It's now time for language evaluator to come forward and give his comments. Let's welcome Toastmaster Tej Sharma.
Good evening once again. I will now be presenting my report. The good uses that I noted were Toastmaster Akash used words like steady resort, imperial. Major General Distinguished Toastmaster Dr. Sabri Girish used words like haversack, gem, pearl of wisdom, mayhem, pool of blood, chill down my spine, quiver, magnanimous, shrieks, gleaming, tint of humor, dog in the fight, a fight in the dog, daredevil, mushroom cloud, falling apart, show must go on, a bow and gratitude. Admiral Sunil Bokre used words like bread and butter, mind of gems, geopolitical, choke points, big giants, tremendous, transshipment, 4 point, creek, maritime, and procure. Toastmaster Tamanna used words like imbibe. Guest Piyush used words like oppressive. Guest Rahul used words like unfurled. And the not so good usage of the English language were the feeling of proud could have been feeling of pride. Someone used kind of person who don't should have been kind of person who doesn't. And someone used is this that it should have been is that. The word of the day was used by Akash Bhojraj twice. Toastmaster Tamanna Ahuja, Major General Distinguished Toastmaster Dr. Sabri Girish twice, guest Piyush Udan, and guest Rahul Dubey. The idiom of the day was used by Distinguished Toastmaster Aditya and Major General Distinguished Toastmaster Dr. Sabri Girish. Let us have a round of applause for them. With this, I conclude my report. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Tej Sharma. Now we will have our counter report. Let's welcome Toastmaster Tejaswini.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. We often find ourselves using crutch words or fillers like ah or you know or meaningless sounds like when we are searching for right words to say. Such crutch words distract from our speech and give the impression that we are not well prepared. Instead, just try pausing a moment while you straighten out your thoughts. This will help to reduce our reliance on those words and achieve clear speech. I will now be presenting my report. Toastmaster of the day, Akash Bhojraj, used 5 as. Toastmaster Sabri Girish Kanjuri sir used 2 as. Speaker for today, Admiral Bhogre sir used 2 as. Toastmaster Tej Sharma used 2 as. Guest Piyush used 3 plus as. Guest Sanjeevni used 5 plus as. Guest Shreya used 5 plus as. Toastmaster Kailash Sutar used 1 A. Guest Neha used 1 A. Toastmaster Advait used 3 plus As. Sergeant at Arms for today, Toastmaster Ankita Deo, Distinguished Toastmasters Prasad Soani, Guest Rahul Dubey, Toastmaster Tamanna Ahuja, Toastmaster Nagappan were flawless with no A's in the meeting. Let's applause for them. With this, I conclude my report and over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Tejaswini, for the detailed report. Someone was observing the proceedings of the entire meeting. He will now give his comments. Over to Distinguished Toastmaster Aditya Bijul.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the day, President, Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, respected guests. Good evening. How was the meeting? Let me ask everyone. Did you all really enjoy
Awesome. I really enjoyed.
Enjoyed, of course.
Enjoyed.
Okay.
Absolutely fantastic.
Okay. So even I enjoyed the meeting a lot, and this is very close to my heart also. So that's why I was the general evaluator for today. So let me just note down, let me just give my report about what I noted, the good things and what can be improved in the future